Hello everybody, welcome back to Style Me Hannah and welcome back to another video. We have got another Sewing Through the Decade video, and this time we are going to be transported back to the 70s. If you aren't familiar with this video series that I have, basically I'm going to be sewing through the different decades using authentic patterns and trying to recreate the fashion of that time just to see if it can still fit in modern fashion today. And on top of that, I will be using thrifted material, so I'm not going to be buying anything brand new. Everything is secondhand, just so we are able to make sewing affordable again. Obviously, with the rise of fast fashion and online shopping, getting things from China, the fashion industry is under a lot of pressure in terms of trends, and we cannot beat those fast fashion prices. In this video, I'm going to be taking one of my 70s pattern from our own collection, and I will be making a garment that is a direct representation of the fashion from that time. At the end, I will calculate how much time it took me to make the garment and how much it cost me, and we will see if it's worth going out, thrifting a pattern, thrifting materials, and sewing your own clothes at home. I have already done a Sewing Through the Decades video where I sewed an authentic pattern from the 60s, so be sure to go and check that out. It was so much fun and the dress came out really pretty. It definitely suits today's style and it was just a fun video to make, so be sure to go watch that one after you finish watching this one. Let's take a dive into the fashion history of the 1970s. The 1970s was the decade of freedom, self-expression, and rebellion. These themes were definitely represented in the men's and women's fashion in the 1970s. From the hippie movement in the early 70s to the glitz and glam of the disco and the rise of punk, this decade has some of the most iconic trends that we still see influencing fashion today. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the men's, the women's fashion history of the 1970s, as well as the hair and makeup that people wore during this time. In the early 70s, the women's theme was boho and hippie. The hippie movement was carried over from the 60s and presented a lot of earthy tones, a lot of free-flowing shapes, and very grounded, earthy fashion. Think of maxi skirts, peasant-style blouses, bell-bottom jeans, and fringes on everything. The fabrics that were natural and lightweight, and an explosion of floral, tie-dye, and crochet. By the mid-1970s, women's fashion started to change into more casual, everyday wear. High-waisted jeans and t-shirts were very popular during this time, as well as the wrap dress that was made popular by Diane von Furstenberg. Platform shoes were huge in the 1970s, adding a little bit of funk and fun to the chic and casual outfits worn by women in the 1970s. By the late 1970s, women's wear started transforming from casual and chic to power dressing and disco glam. When the disco era started taking over, everything was bright, colorful, sequins, shiny, flashy outfits. Women wore halter tops, metallic jumpsuits, and slinky evening gowns. The power suit emerged when women started going into the workforce and needed something that would assert dominance in a male-dominated industry. Let's take a look at the hair and makeup of the 1970s. In the early 1970s, just as we saw in the fashion, there was that hippie bohemian influence. We saw soft, effortless hair that was long and straight, in a sense apart, inspired by icons such as Cher and Ally McGraw. There was very minimal makeup worn in the early 70s. Women tend to lean for a more fresh, natural-looking face with mascara and soft pink or peach lips. By the mid-1970s, to go along with the chic and casual influence in fashion, women started to lean more towards bronzy makeup and feathery layers in the hair. Think big, bouncy layers. This is what women in the mid-1970s were trying to achieve. Makeup was still very natural, but more bronzy, with sun-kissed skin and glossy lips. By the late 1970s, we saw the disco and punk era coming in full force, not only influencing the fashion, but hair and makeup. The disco era brought over-the-top makeup and hair, bold eyeshadow, glossy lips, and loads of shimmer. Hair was big and fluffy and had so much volume. Afros, big curls, teased up hairstyles. Meanwhile, the punk scene had dark eyeliner, mohawks, and edgy, rebellious looks. Now let's have a look at the men's fashion through the 1970s. In the early 1970s, just as we saw in women's fashion, that hippie bohemian style was also reflected in men's fashion. Again, seeing those loose peasant style shirts, suede jackets, and bell bottoms. We also saw men wearing their hair long, their beards grown out, giving that effortless anti-establishment vibe. By the mid-1970s, we see men's fashion transfer into more athleisure wear, a sporty style, and the rise of denim, which included things like denim jackets, polo shirts, and corduroy pants became a wardrobe staple. We cannot forget about the iconic tracksuit that was made famous by Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee. By the late 1970s, we see men's fashion going more towards disco fever and punk rebellion. The disco fashion for men were all about tight shirts, high-waisted flare pants, and platforms. Suits got so flashy during this era as well. Think velvet blazers, bold patterns, and even rhinestones. And in contrast to this disco fever that men were adventuring into, the punk rebellion was all about ripped jeans, leather jackets, and t-shirts and spiky hair. These wardrobe staples became the punk rebellion uniform for the youth during this time. The hero garment of the 1970s has to be the bell bottoms. Everybody knows what bell bottoms are. Bell bottoms were everywhere in the 70s, and it started off as a counter-culture statement, but ended up becoming a wardrobe staple that we saw plenty of back then, but definitely still see today. And these bell bottoms varied from bohemian styles to flashy disco. Everybody was able to wear bell bottoms that suited their personal aesthetic. Early 1970s, bell bottoms were more flowy, loose, and perfect to accompany that laid-back bohemian hippie look. They often wore these bell bottoms in the early 1970s with crochet tops, platform shoes, peasant-style tops, which accommodated the free-spirited, laid-back time of the early 1970s. Mid-1970s, the bell bottom started to transform into everyday wear fabrics and designs. They became a go-to for both men and women and were often paired with band tees, denim jackets, and sneakers. They came in bright colored fabrics, denim, corduroy, making them such a versatile design feature to have in your wardrobe. There was also a time when high-waisted tighter versions became popular, setting the stage for how we see bell bottoms today. With the disco scene in the late 1970s, bell bottoms reflected the glitz and the glam of this time. We saw glamorous, ultra-wide bell bottoms in flashy fabric like satin and sequins. I'm sure we all are familiar with John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever, where he's wearing those bell bottoms where it's high-waisted and tight-fitting and were just so iconic. Women rocked the slinkier, more sparkly versions on the dance floor, and it made an epic effect when they were moving, grooving to the music. They usually paired these very flamboyant bell bottoms with halter tops and platform shoes. Now, the history of bell bottoms is just so interesting, and there's a reason why it became the hero garment of the 1970s. In the 1800s, the bell bottoms were actually first used for Navy uniform. The earliest known flared trousers were worn in the 18th century by US and European navies. The reason for this was because the sailors were able to roll up their pants easier to prevent them from getting wet when on deck, and they used it as a safety feature for if people fell overboard. They were able to grab their bell bottoms and their flared trousers to pull them up onto the boat quickly and safely. Although bell bottoms were not an official part of the Navy uniform, many men took it upon themselves to adopt this style as it became just the practical choice for them to wear when working out on the boats. And this was seen throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Now, going back to the 1960s, this is when bell bottoms first made an appearance in everyday casual wear. This was thanks to the hippie movement. Many people became anti-mainstream fashion, and what they did in rebellion to going and buying the trends and buying things in shops, they went to the naval surplus stores where they bought these flared trousers. It became a symbol of rebellion. The youth movement in the 60s and 70s rejected the prim and proper, tailored, uncomfortable styles and opted for more loose, comfortable, free-spirited clothing, and this is when they used the bell bottom. The bell bottoms were also just such an expression of creativity. People would buy these from the Navy surplus stores and completely transform them. They would bedazzle them, paint them, add in beautiful godets of different fabric, and it became basically an expression of authenticity that has never been seen before. It's so epic. The reason why bell bottoms became so popular in casual wear is not only the historical impact and importance, but for a number of reasons. They were so versatile from all the different types of fashion styles that we saw. They stayed a fashion staple for not only women, but men as well. They flattered all body types. The high-waisted, flared leg gave an illusion of the hourglass, making legs look longer and balancing out body proportions. They symbolized freedom and self-expression, and the 70s was all about breaking the rules in fashion. And lastly, but most importantly, they looked epic on the dance floor. I went through my sewing pattern collection and we are spoiled for choice. This is definitely one of my favorite decades. I see it a lot in my personal style and I'm buzzing to sew a garment from this decade. Honestly, it was really hard for me to choose. You'll see why. There's a lot and there are so many beautiful styles, but I have narrowed down which one I am going to make. But first, let's go through the sewing patterns that I have. I am going to do this rapid fire because there are quite a few. Hopefully it comes out nice and clear, but let's speed through it. Starting off nice and strong. How beautiful is the details, the collars, oh, the dresses. I did make a dress in the 60s video, so I wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit so we get some versatility. And I've decided on a pattern. The pattern I'm going to sew in this video is actually two patterns. I had to sew flares. I had to sew bell bottoms. These are more flare style, but because they're such a hero garment of the 1970s, I got to do it. So I am going to be sewing these trousers and this top. Just because, obviously, flared pants, iconic for the time, halter neck, iconic. It's going to be the perfect 70s look. This pattern here was cut on, or was only made in a size 14. So off camera, I just had to do some adjustments to the pattern to make sure that it fits me. A size between 8 and 10, so I did have to take quite a bit off. However, I do think it's going to work and it's going to come together beautifully. The fabric for this pattern I thrifted in my recent SPCA thrifting video. And when I saw it, I had this video in mind, and it's honestly just so perfect. It is this fabric. It's floral, it's bright, it's opaque, and it has a clear right and wrong side, so it makes my life so much easier. Pants and the halter neck top are going to be made in this fabric. It's going to be a matching set, and I just think it's gonna do the 70s fashion justice. Pattern has been chosen, fabric is ready to go. But before we get into all the sewing fun, I just want to remind you to subscribe. YouTube is telling me that a huge percentage of people who watch my content are not subscribed, and I would really appreciate it and love for you to come and join the Style Me Honey community. So don't be shy, hit the subscribe button. And then you'll be notified of when I post videos, so you'll never miss one. Good morning, everybody. It is our first sewing day for the video, and I'm so keen to just get sewing. I did quite a bit off camera, just prepping the fabric, cutting it out. I must say this pattern is a little bit worse for wear. So I had to make some pattern adjustments to make it fit me. I'm still not 100% sure it is going to fit me, but we shall find out later on. But yeah, all the pattern pieces are cut out. I did have to play around with the pants as well because they came in a short and long variation, and the person that had the pattern previously cut it into a short and then threw away the extra pattern piece. So I had to elongate it to make it into a flared pair of trousers. But I will show you what I've done and all the prep work, and then we can get sewing. These are the top panels. We've got the underbust, the back, and the bust pieces. And then we have the pants. We've got the back and the front. And we have glorious sunshine coming in the sewing room today. So hopefully it's a good omen for this project. I'm going to be creating a shell and a lining, and then putting the shell and the lining right sides together, sewing it up, leaving a little gap and bagging it out. So we'll see how that goes. Bust pieces, I've opted out for a very soft stretch cotton just because it's a little bit more comfortable. This embroidery does tend to be a little bit rough, so I've lined it with that instead. All prepped and ready to go for the top. I'm going to start with the bodice pieces. I'm going to sew down on this side and this side, and on the same for this. Pinned the lining onto the fabric. We're going to sew all the way around, leaving the bottom part open, flip it inside out, give it a good press, and then attach it to the bodice pieces. I just finished stitching along the bottom and along the top. The bust cups are inside there, and I left the sides open. So we are now going to flip this inside out, and hopefully everything caught and it's all sewn up nicely. And we have the top turned the right side. It actually came out so nice. There's no visible stitching. Obviously these raw edges are still here on the side. There are buttons, so there's going to be some buttonholes here and some buttons on the side. I'll turn it the other way. So this is what the inside of the garment looks like. You've got that soft cotton over on the bust, and then you've got the same print on the inside. So yeah, this is the really nice thing about bagging it out, is that there's no visible stitching. Everything is nice and enclosed, and so when the garment is worn, it just looks a lot more professionally made, I guess, not so homemade. I have made a delicious hot chocolate. I'm in my comfy pajamas, had a nice hot shower. I'm feeling very cozy, and I wasn't planning on sewing after work, but the dopamine of making this top this morning has hit, and I just want to carry on. All that's left to do is 3 buttonholes and sew on 3 buttons. I've been sewing for 2 hours this morning already, so it's going fairly quickly. Grab something delicious, get nice and relaxed, and I shall take you through the rest of this project for this evening. I hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. This is just your little reminder that if you aren't already, subscribe. I'm planning on going through all the decades, so still lots to come, and possibly revise and go back to some decades. So if you really are enjoying the video, you can leave me a little like there, maybe comment if you've sewn from a vintage pattern, and if you prefer sewing from vintage patterns versus digital patterns that are now being released and you have to go and like kind of print it yourself. I'm interested to know. Some people prefer buying the actual envelopes, some people prefer even the projection patterns. It looks really interesting and I'm intrigued, but I'm such a paper gal. I don't know if I would be converted easily into doing the projection patterns. Enough rambling, let's get into the sewing for this evening. I think I've made a mistake. I measured on my body and there was quite a bit of excess fabric. So I cut off where I measured, but I don't know where I went wrong, and I cut off too much fabric. So I am not 100% sure this top is going to fit me. I'm just kind of going with it and putting on the buttons and the buttonhole and just hoping that it does. I've just finished tidying up the side seams for the buttons and the buttonhole, and then I'm going to do the buttonholes and just sew those buttons on real good, so hopefully they don't bust. Oh, so stupid. And the first thing that went into my mind was like,
measure twice, cut once.
And I did not follow that advice. So now we may or may not have a top that fits me. And I have no more of this fabric because it's thrifted. Just having a little look in here for 3 buttons that may go nicely with this top. These here would have been my absolute ideal choice. They're shiny, they're beautiful, they match perfectly. But I don't have a third one, and my heart absolutely broke again. So yeah, I've got 3 of these buttons, which is a little bit of a brighter pink. They're coming off a lot more brighter on camera than what they actually are. Okay, scratch that. I found these 3 buttons, which is the same shape as those ones that I love, but there's 3 of them. So I shall be using these. Good morning, everybody. We finished the top, and it is now time to move on to the pants. I've just finished prepping the pants. So basically what I've got the back piece and the front piece put together. And what I'm going to sew first is the inseam. So I'm going to sew all the way down to the end, and I've got the other one here.
opened up the panels and I've got the back pieces together and the right pieces together. The right sides are facing each other, and what I'm going to do now is sew all along this U shape here. I just gave that crotch seam a good press, opened up the seams, and then I opened it up, put right sides together. There you go. Now I'm going to sew all the way down each side seam. I'm just doing a quick little try on of the pants so far, and they fit really well. The crotch is nice, they're nice on the booty. They are very flared, and a bit long. I'm not going to be wearing these with heels. I don't wear a lot of heels, so I'm not going to make them floor length like that. And looking at the waistband, I'm definitely going to have to fold and make a casing for some elastic just to put it on a bit easier and just to hug the waist a bit more, because we do want it, if I hold the top up, we do want it to be more like that, you know, a little bit more figure hugging, very tight on the booty, but nice and flared on the legs. I just finished sewing the waistband of the pants, and now I'm going to thread through the elastic. I tried on the pants after putting on the waistband, and the waistband is too tight, the elastic is too small, and also the elastic band is too thick and it's taken up too much of the rise and it's like giving you hungry bum. So I am unpicking the whole waistband, gonna have to put in a thinner elastic, is what I am currently doing with my trusty quick unpick. Yeah, it's annoying, eh? It's annoying. Okay, elastic is out and waistband is unpicked. Now I'm basically going to redo all the steps that I did previously. And that is the finished look, everybody. What do we think? I have some final thoughts, so let's jump right into those. First things first, let's talk about how long this took me to make, how much it cost me. So let's first break down time-wise. So in total, with the top and the pants together, this project took me 7 hours, which is
included a lot of mistakes. Now let's talk about the price. Fabric cost 30 Rand for 3 meters. Elastic was part of a reel that it was literally, I think, like 20 Rand for a massive bunch of elastic. 1 Rand for the elastic, 1 Rand for the thread that I had to use. For the buttons, 1 Rand 50 cents a button from the thrift store. The patterns cost me 5 Rand and I used 2 70s patterns, so that's 10 Rand for patterns. All those materials taken into consideration, the top and the bottom together came to a grand total of 43 Rand 50 cents. Each piece came to 21 Rand and 75 cents. We'll round it up to 22 Rand. 22 Rand for the top and 22 Rand for the bottom. Now the burning question, was it worth it? Was this specific project worth going and sourcing the patterns, the materials, doing 7 hours of labor? And you might be surprised by my answer, but hot take, I don't think it was worth it, guys. Truly, the pattern didn't come in my size and I had to do a lot of alterations to the pattern, which therefore led to a lot of mistakes that I had to go and redo. And ultimately, I think these are very basic patterns. I don't think there's anything super special about them. And I think you can find a lot of resources these days that are a lot more simple, that are a lot quicker. The instructions in the 70s patterns were very detailed, and I found a lot of unnecessary steps, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, I had to fiddle around with it a lot. But I mean, I would love to remake the top. I think the top is really cool, really fun, and I would love to remake it and maybe add 2 centimeters just to make it a little bit bigger. The pants, I love a good flare pants, but I don't think these are the best flare pants I've ever made. Just the pattern was a bit strange. I mean, I must say the pattern was a little bit worse for wear as well, so it was just kind of tearing as I was using it. Yeah, I don't think this project was worth it. Whoa. Now I know you're probably thinking, Hannah, what do you mean that it wasn't worth it? You've got a whole outfit for under 50 bucks. And I fully understand that, but I have to kind of take it into consideration how long it took me to sew 2 very simple garments. There you go. So I personally think the amount of effort and time, and to be honest, I think it was a little bit more than 7 hours. I didn't track religiously, so I didn't take into consideration a lot of other stuff that I did. So we're looking more at like between maybe 8.5 hours. So that is what I mean. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it was worth the effort and the extra time that I put into making this very simple outfit, as opposed to the 60s garment, which was a lot more detailed. There was a lot more trickier things that I had to sew, and that took me 8 hours. And when I put that on, I was like, oh my gosh, it fits like a glove. It's so perfect. This is definitely worth it. Whereas this one, I had to alter a lot of the pattern. When I put the pants on, it feels okay, but it's not like super comfy, so it's not something that I'm going to be reaching for. That is what I mean by if it is worth it. I hope that makes more sense. Back to the video. I think it came out really well and I was happy with the end product, but I'm not running back to remake it like how it was in the 60s pattern. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and for spending some time with me. I hope you enjoyed and took something away from this video, whether it's learning about the 70s and how it has influenced our fashion today, or whether you just watched it for entertainment purposes and enjoyed seeing me struggle. The next decade that we will be diving into is the 80s, which will be really fun. So don't be shy, subscribe. If you did enjoy the video as well, please be sure to like and leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Do you think I did a good representation of the 70s? Other than that, have a beautiful day, a wonderful evening, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you guys really soon. Bye.